Hi, welcome to this lesson on variables, expressions, and statements. Let us begin with the values and types. Value is one of the basic things a program works with, like a letter or a number. For example, 2 is an integer value, and the word hello world is an string value or text value. The texts are considered as strings in Python in most of the cases. Whereas comments are nothing but the texts, but they are not considered as the strings in most of the cases. Let us type some values and see their types using the print statements. And another word that is nothing but the text. Strings are written within the double inverted comma or single inverted comma. So we talk about these strings later in this course. Now suppose if we are not sure what type of value we have typed or used, the interpreter can tell us the type of values we used. We need to use the command type and then inside the parentheses put the value to know its type. For example, here we have just used the two values 4 and the hello world. Let us check the type of these values using the type function in interpreter. Type of 4 is nothing but int, means integer, and type of the word hello world belongs to the type string. Any number with a decimal point refers to the type float. For example, type of 2.0. So here you can see it belongs to the type float. Suppose if we put 20 or 20.5 inside the codes, we will get an output in the form of string instead of type int, but we don't get an error just for printing. Example 20. So we got the type int. For 20.5 we got the type float. What if we type in the form of a string like type 20 we got the type as string instead of int because we have placed 20 inside the inverted comma. So hence whatever we place inside the inverted comma or double inverted comma or triple inverted comma will be considered as strings instead of the numbers. let us type the number 20 inside the double inverted comma and check what it results. Once again it is string. But the print statement what I have talked just now will print just the value we placed inside the print statement, but it does not tell about the type of the values. So we just got 20. If I place 20.5, just I got 20.5. I am not getting the type of the values, and also print statement is just printing these values as strings. So in order to check whether the print statement is giving the output in the form of strings or not, just inside the print statement use the type method and then check the values we have used. So now we can see the type is of type string. So we will get an error if we use them in some other operations like an arithmetic operations, which we will see later in this course. So from this I can conclude that anything we put inside the single or double quotes all are treated as the strings, because Python treats everything inside the quotes as strings except in some other cases. But we will see what are these exceptional cases later in this course. Next, let us talk about variables. A variable is a name that refers to a value. An assignment statement creates a new variables and gives them values. For example, message is equal to Python for engineers. And n is equal to 17. And pi is equal to, the value of pi is 3.1415926 and etc. etc. Let us omit the remaining characters. Here the first code assigns a string to a new variable named message. The second assigns the integer 17 to n, and the third assigns the value of pi to the new variable called pi. To display the value of a variable, we can use the print statement. So let us print the message what we have created and see what it will print. So we got Python for engineers. So this is because we have assigned a value Python for engineers, a string value, to the variable message. So variable is a name that refers to a value. Here the value is nothing but Python for engineers. Similarly, if I type the value n, you can guess what is the output. So yes, obviously the output is 17. Similarly, the value of pi. The type of a variable is the type of the value it refers to. For example, type message. So the variable message is of type string because we have assigned a string value to the variable message. Hence, the type of this variable message is nothing but string. Similarly, if you check the type of the variable n, you will get the type of the variable n as integer. Let us check the last variable pi. So it is of type float. We can reassign different values to a variable as needed. For example, x is equal to 10. Let us print the value x. Now it is 10. Suppose if I replace with the value 20 and print the value of x, I got the new value as 20. Once again, let us change the value from 20 to 30. Once again, I got the new value as 30. So, from this, we can conclude that when we assign a different value to the same variable name, the type of the value assigned also changes along with the value assignment. So first we have assigned 10. We got output as 10. And in the second case we have assigned 20 and we got the output as 20. And in the third case we have assigned 30 and we got the output as 30. So value is keep on changing, and at the same time the type of the variable will also change. So type means whether it is a string, int or float. So these are nothing but the types of the variable, whether the variable is string, int or float. How these types changes? Because of the assignment of the values. For message, we have assigned a string value, so message is of type string. For n, we have assigned integer value, so n is of type integer. And for pi, we have assigned a floating point value, so pi is of type float. What we are going to tell you is, suppose if we replace the value with a different type of values to the same variable having the same name, then the type and value will also change. So for example, For x, we have added 10, 20 and 30. Now let us see if I add x is equal to ABC. Here I am assigning ABC a string to a variable x. Now if I print this type of the variable, we got the type as string. Earlier it is of type integer, but now it is of type string. Let us talk about undefined variable or unbound variable. A variable that has not been assigned is known as undefined variable or unbound variable. Any attempt to use an undefined variable gives an error. For example, x is equal to, let us reassign x with the value 40, and if I call x, we will get the output as 40 because we have assigned a new value 40 to the variable x. Suppose if an undefined variable is called in an interpreter, the interpreter will throw an error. That's what the definition is. For example, if I type y and press enter, I got an error. Name y is not defined. Here, the assignment statement x is equal to 40 binds 40 to the variable x, and after that interpreter can evaluate x. So x has the value 40. But what about y? Interpreter cannot evaluate the variable. It can evaluate the values, but it cannot evaluate the variables. So it reports an error because variable y doesn't have any value. Suppose if I type this inside the single inverted comma, let us see what happens. Look at here. I got the same output. Why? Because it is a string. String is nothing but a value. So interpreter can evaluate it. Say for example 100. It is nothing but a value and interpreter can evaluate it. But what about the variable name without any single quote or double quote? So variables are not written inside the single quote or double quote or triple quote. So variables are just typed as a text, like text, right? So if I assign any value, then only this variable will be evaluated by the interpreter. Otherwise, no. If I just type text, I will get an error. If I type text and assign the value text inside the single inverted comma or double inverted comma, interpreter will evaluate. And if once again if I call text variable, the value of the text variable will be text. In order to verify that, let us reassign the value to a new text. new text. Now if I call text in the interpreter, I got the new assigned value new text to the variable text. So I think you have got the idea how the interpreter evaluates the variables and how the interpreter evaluates the values. Interpreter will not throw any error while evaluating the values if we do not assign those values to the variables also. But interpreter will throw an error if there is no value assigned to the variable. Okay. In order to delete a variable inside the code or in the interpreter, we can use the command del. For example, if I delete the variable text and if I try to call the same variable in the interpreter or in any script file, then we will get an error. Text is not defined. So it is of type name error. So if you look at the error type, name error, and name error. Errors are of different type. So we will get variety of errors while working with the Python. So we must remember what type of error the Python can arise if we do mistake in the coding. So one more thing about del keyword is it will remove a variable's definition from the current interpreter session or from an executing Python program. So this is the important keynote about the del keyword.